So, Winx Club?
We are the Winx, we are the Winx, come join the club. We are the Winx, we are the Winx, we are the Winx, come join the club. We are the Winx.
I was a quiet, shy child without friends, so I used to spend most of my adolescence in a little coconut head that I've got, and I remember really enjoying the experience. Thinking about formative media at that time, and especially about media that helped me to enjoy my time as much as I did, I can't escape thinking about Winx Club. I learned about it from some girl who described a tie-in show to one of her countless dolls I always wanted to have. I was sold on the idea of watching it the second I heard the names. Bloom, Stella, Flora, Techno Music, Aisha, snappy, memorable, and very original for a 7-year-old who never watched anything but Shrek and Tom and Jerry. Being from a lower class family and not having many resources as a child, I had to improvise even to just watch the show. Not being able to see the complete picture, I still could easily sympathize with Bloom's POV of having well-meaning but not rich parents, struggling with finding friends, being mocked, but still searching for a world that accepts her. And no matter which episode you watch, the core was there, the beautiful friendship. In the year of 2022, being a young adult now, I'm still watching the first season at least twice a year and enjoying this simple girls cliche show from 2000s more than any media since. Why did it touch my heart so much and so many kids around the world? And how it subverts everything you think it is? That's what I'm here to tell you. At its core, Winx Club is a 20 minutes animated show for preteens about 6 friends going to magical school and having adventures, sometimes saving the world from great evil. It is mostly famous for its futuristic kind of vibe and incredible Y2K fashion. Winx Club's fashion aesthetic wasn't just an accessory to the plot, it was the backbone of who each girl was. Fashion, at its core, goes beyond clothing. It's a statement, and though it's oftentimes ridiculed for being vapid, it can be an incredible ode to who a person is and what they stand for. Winx Club, like Sailor Moon, was able to tie fashion with identity in a way that didn't feel condescending, and it came at a time when young women were easily dismissed for having an interest in fashion at all. In many ways, Winx Club was the best of both worlds. An important cross-section when one can understand the nuances of good versus evil, and still find joy in personal style. Imagine a typical programming of late 90s, early 2000s children channel. A little bit of a sausage party, to be quite honest. Ingenious Shafi thought so too. So, in late 90s, a pilot of a fantasy action cartoon was put into work focusing on 5 16-year-olds girlfriends from different backgrounds trying to navigate the transition into adulthood. The early concept was a mix of European fairy tales and resembled a more typical fantasy genre look, reminding me of shows that would follow Winx Club like Witch. It was more gritty, fairy forms echoed the ones of Disney fairies, more simple, having a natural kind of vibe. The tricks were literally looking like Shakespeare's witches in Macbeth. Trolls and other magical creatures mirrored their classical look. So the pilot, called Magic Bloom, was, as I would put it, a little bit unoriginal and uninspired, at least in its art form and concepts. Thankfully though, the designs were deemed outdated, the first pilot was scrapped, and the idea was reworked. The futuristic look was combined with classical fantasy one, which created a unique style, where medieval castles coexist with flying cars and sci-fi battle armor. This approach was taken to all parts of world building, which creates a magical dimension we've never seen before, and probably since. And now we take a short pause to appreciate the audacity of these amazing looks. Appreciation is much needed, but it wouldn't have a leg to stand on if the show didn't have its characters and stories. Also, usually when people talk about Winx Club, they bring up Ingenious Chaffee. His name is synonymous with Rainbow and all of their projects, especially Winx Club. He's the only creative name that pops up in the opening credits, does interviews, and as I think, all we need to know about the man is that he is a great storyteller and he knows how to make a product and sell it. So giving the credit when and where it's due, I also want to talk about inspirations of the show. According to tvtropes.com, we can define the genre as Mahou Shoujo, magical girl, or just Majoko, witch girl in Japanese. Magical girls are empowered by various means with fantastic powers that both assist and complicate their lives, but they manage to perverse despite this. The genre was inspired by American sitcom Bewitched, grew its popularity over the years in Japan, and hit the international arena with Sailor Moon, which created a subgenre of magical girl warrior, combining superhero genre elements with typical magical girl influences. One of the most recognizable parts of the genre is magic transformation sequence that is repeated every episode and or time the characters need to use magic. It's one of the first influences that show has, even in its art style. The trademark rainbow style is a mix of Japanese manga and classic Western animation. If you've ever been to Winx Club fandom, you probably have heard that the main six had real-life prototypes from American pop culture of the time. In a 2011 interview with Ayadana, Chaffee stated that Britney Spears served as an inspiration for Bloom, Cameron Diaz for Stella, Jennifer Lopez for Flora, Pink for Tekna, Lucy Liu for Musa, and Beyonce for Aisha. This approach was part of Chaffee's aim for the fairies to represent the woman of today. And maybe it is true, but I can't help but wonder if there's another staple of pop culture more appropriate for the time of the show's creation and more representative of the values that Winx Club showcases and promotes to viewers. Yes, I'm talking about the Spice Girls, baby. Listen, the club originally had 5 members, just like the band, and they both promote this girl power kind of feminism to its young audiences. They teach to embrace yourself, have an amazing Y2K fashion, and the archetypes to choose your favorite more or less overlap. Ginger Spice is Bloom, the clear main character with the most impressive powers and all. Baby Spice is Flora, gentle personality and sweet nature. Horse Spice is fashionista Stella. This is Scary Spice, confident, brave, and loud. And Tekna is Sport Spice, a more boyish one.
Fuck me gently with a chainsaw. Do I look like Mother Teresa?
Winx Club, thinking about it now, under a different direction might have felt a little cliquey. It's not a big stretch to make in an aesthetic sense. The bright colors and stylish clothes, hyper-femininity, reminiscent of movies like Heathers, Jawbreaker, and Mean Girls. That's the superficial conclusion a lot of people would make about the show. And it is a bad critical analysis of media, but it is a not crazy thought one might have from a first glance. These movies I mentioned above use cliques as an exploration of codependent, abusive, mean, and very exclusionary power dynamics, which often results in death.
My son's a homosexual, and I love him. I love my dead gay son.
But Winx Club proclaims itself to be just another female group of friends in the school and really wonderfully celebrates female friendships. It's not shying away from conflict. Girls bump heads a lot, but they always are there for each other. Winx see themselves growing, taking in new members. Tricks, on the other hand, may be a more accurate description of a clique trope. In contrast, they could go the Winx route, but they always choose not to. Tricks are shown as this fucked up power dynamic, bullying, and exclusion when it comes to new people trying to join the elite club. See, I even found something good and deep in Miss Magic episode. When Winx Club premiered in 2004, we didn't I have preteen cartoons with season-long story arcs, and they mostly were built like a traditional sitcom. One-offs was conflict resolved by the end of each episode, so you can rotate them in any particular order without worrying about continuity. But Winx Club is built differently. Each season has 26 episodes with one consistent story arc, and each episode has its own conflict which slowly builds up to the finale. So you could simply watch one episode out of order and be satisfied, but you kinda needed to follow it along to see the bigger picture. This format was probably the reason why the show couldn't find success among American audiences at first, who weren't really exposed to shows like that until Avatar: The Last Airbender became a big success. In my opinion, season 1 is the best executed season in the series. The pacing is great. We follow Bloom's adaptation in a new world and a build-up of a great friendship. Slowly we learn about new mysteries surrounding Bloom's powers and try to piece the puzzle. Trix complement the Winx story arc by growing up from bullies who base their power on status to evil witches who base it on fear and tyranny. Small adventures become more dangerous as the episodes go on. Every bit of the story is interconnected. Every time the heroes meet the villains, they both become more powerful and motivated. Bloom's identity is interconnected to Trix's motives, but also she learns about fairies only because of their actions. Everything is wrapped up with a little pretty bow, and every piece leads up to battle for magic, probably the only time in the series when we see real losses. The haunting black sky and awful creatures of darkness appearing in every living corner create an incredible tension. The life as we come to know and love it is in danger, and there's a lot at stake.
All right, this is it. Hold your positions, everyone. The stakes have never been higher.
Giovanni Serra and Angelo Poggi created the most unsettling and effective soundtrack that I've ever heard in a kid's show. It is so intricately done and highlights every point of the series so well. We also see how strong the alliance between colleges really is. The witches aren't hateful towards fairies, it's just petty drama and they're both being good sport about it. The Tricks are defeated by Winx at the last minute, but only because all of the other students and teachers could keep up with the evil and stand up to it. Without every magical being who fought alongside Winx, the victory wouldn't be possible. Season 2 is good, and only because I love Aisha and she's the best character in the show. Her addition to the club is a great idea and a driving force of a lot of drama this season. The friendships are still at the core, but the overarching plot is a mess. This season is perfect for small character moments, like exploring Aisha's loneliness and her bond with Musa, Musa's relationship to her trauma and mom's death. This season ties up the friendship of the girls to their ability to perform magic, since if they don't listen to each other and feel in sync, they fail missions. So, the confusion with this season for me is that the show tries to build up a smaller, more intimate narrative with personal stories and small stakes, which is perfect. But it tells us at every turn that the threat is bigger and the stakes are higher, so what we're told contradicts what we're shown, which ruins the pacing. And after witnessing the finale, I feel nothing but disillusionment.
We must conclude that our enemy is much stronger than we initially thought.
Floor acoustic barrier!
But if Darkar gets a hold of all four pieces, it'll be a disaster.
one grow!
With these Glulix, it'll be easy to get the dragon's fire.
Fools! There is much greater power to be had than the dragon's fire.
I can't move!
Out there!
Gotta lose that hitchhiker! Can anyone hear me? What have they done? Yo!
And also, you should never do a Little Mermaid 2 trick and start adding up new characters to an already established backstory. Revealing new plot points and characters in the sequel that were never mentioned in the original and contradict the established world building makes your audience feel cheated on, especially when you are priding yourself on making a cohesive narrative, because the viewers follow the story, and when you change it all of a sudden, it doesn't feel earned and rubs off the trust between creators and viewers. Moreover, you don't have to connect all of the villains, making them colleagues/family. Then the lore feels poorly thought out, and the world you've built feels insanely small. Season 3, I don't really have a lot to say about it. It takes some things into consideration. It's cool that we get time with each fairy to earn enchantix. The villain is better, but it doesn't compare to season 1. The pacing is a lot better. But the finale is very anticlimactic, like, Season 4, on the other hand, even though it has a lot of needless subplots, I like it. It's a story of maturing, both of its characters and its audience. Winx Club moves to Earth after graduating Althea, and fairies are navigating problems of adulthood, creating their own business, finding place to live, falling out of relationships, losing loved ones. Roxy, the new addition to the club, has a very similar story to Bloom, who now can act as an older sister, feeling for Roxy's frustration and fear, which she dealt with in season 1. So now she has actual experience to help. Since in the gap between season 3 and 4, the show got really big around the world, the first episode feels extremely meta and self-referential. It feels like Winx know they just had a big movie in theaters around the world premiered, and everybody considers them the most famous fairs in the world. It's an interesting meta look on the show's success, but I'm glad they dropped it in the next episodes. Today we're not going to talk about everything that follows season 4 because it's trash with some genuinely interesting ideas, and I grew out of those stories by the time season 5 came along. And the show decided to stop maturing with me, though I will always have the original run to rewatch religiously. Bringing it back to similarities with Spice Girls, Winx Club shows its audience as a light-hearted girl power feminism and opens up the world of acceptance for kids. It subverts the gender roles of early 2000 male-dominated media, depicting the girls as capable of everything their male counterparts can, saving their boyfriends from monsters, inviting them on dates, but it also in no way tells its viewers that you have to compromise your femininity to be a strong fairy. Tomboys Aisha, Tekna, and Yuza are represented as capable of being a good fairy as more feminine Stella, Flora, and Bloom. Aisha's interest in sport isn't shown to be any better or worse than Stella's love of fashion. Also, you aren't supposed to do one thing. Aisha loves motorcycles, but she's also enjoying ballet dancing. The show validates female friendships and also was one of the first shows where young people of color could see themselves represented on the screen. It has Latina, Asian, and black coded leads and is very proud of their heritage. The first time me and many children have seen main characters in a cartoon discuss how parents' divorce affects Stella, the death of Muse's mom puts their relationship with her father at stake, and make it hard for her to open up to new people. Aisha's forced isolation as a child leads to panic attacks. Tekna has a hard time understanding social situations and coming in terms with her emotions. Bloom has a survivor's guilt after finding out that she's the only person alive from her planet. She also has these beautiful storylines of being an adopted child but being loved. They all learn and grow to accept themselves throughout beautiful friendship, and this is the main draw of the show. Of course, the show isn't without its flaws. Its designs based on fashion sketches compromise its representation of body positivity, since non-skinny characters tend to exist only as a representative of a different species or some kind of stereotype. Dominance of heteronormativity is a big part of its lore. Episode Miss Magic shows us curly afro hair as funny, and a character describes this as ugly and starts crying. The stereotype for the Indian coded character will be of his parents forcing him to arrange marriage. The only dark-skinned love interest of the show dies, sacrificing himself. Show decision to include monarchy as a part of a fairy tale genre didn't sit right with me, and we can't ignore all of that. There are things that make you scratch your head, but I think it's important to acknowledge the problematic nature of it and being critical of it while enjoying the positive representation it's given us and the ways it got us where we are today.